There are some people that think that everyone should go to therapy at some point, and even some girls have made it as a prerequisite for a guy that they're gonna date.
Really?
No, I'm serious, and it gotten to a point where it's almost idolized. It's almost like too glorified. Like therapy can fix everything.
Therapy shouldn't be put before other genuine relationships. What we're trying to create here is open space. We're trying to create a place where, hey, we can talk honestly and openly about, hey, what's going on in our lives? What are some of the things we're dealing with? What does it mean to live a Christian life?
And let people into this space to find healing, to find restoration, to find redemption. We can explore those things with the Word of God. Hey, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. How's it going?
Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another episode of The Open Space. And we're so glad that you're joining us once again. We are so excited to be doing this now. I mean, we're almost, over a month in? So, yeah, we've been hanging out with you guys, and you guys have been showing us some love. So we love it. And my name is Eric. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, my name is Eric. I'm your host, and my co-host here,
Jedediah
Bossman, and we are the Open Space Podcast.
Oh.
So, so Jed, I had some thoughts. I had some things on my mind that I want us to talk about.
Yeah.
Very deep things.
Oh, okay.
Very, very strong, deep things.
Yeah.
No. But have you been to therapy?
Therapy? No. Counseling?
Honestly, it's probably a give or take. But I don't know what the stark difference is between therapy and counseling, but I know there is one. I have not been into formal, like, actual therapy personally. I mean, but I've done, like, some sort of counseling at some point. But I had this thing. I mean, and I was talking about this with another friend of mine, and so that's probably why this was, stuck in my mind. So that when we started talking about what we wanted to talk about today, I wanted to specifically talk about this because I want us to talk about mentorship and therapy, like both of those things. And I'm gonna kind of like draw the connection, but I think a lot of people are talking about therapy today. Perhaps, have you heard of a lot of people talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's something over the years I hear more and more people talking about, and people just bring it up in conversation. Oh, yeah, I'm going to therapy, and it's a more typical thing you hear nowadays,
especially in the church circles.
Yeah,
right. Because I feel like a lot of the young adults I know, and a lot of the people that around me most of the times, I hear it very, very, very often. That, therapy, this, therapy, that, therapy, this and the third. It's like, okay, we get it. You're in therapy. It's okay. Yeah, that's great. But I honestly, I don't know. I don't have anything against therapy. And all of you guys that are huge therapy people, I have nothing against it. So just starting right out, like putting that disclaimer out. I'm not, my hands are clean.
Not trying to step on any toes.
My hands are clean. My hands are clean. But I do have a problem with just how I feel like people are talking about it these days, because I feel like it's gotten to a point where it's almost idolized. It's almost like too glorified. Like therapy can fix everything. Like in sort of this mindset that people have kind of gotten, like our culture has these kinds of, it's kind of a norm with our culture. Like we normally go like on extremes of everything. Like it's always like, oh no, therapy, like no therapy, don't do it. Like don't, who cares? Like nobody wants that. But, and then, oh my gosh, everyone should be doing it right now. Like right now, you should be in therapy right now. Like it's just like these extremes that we always go in. Be it, with sexuality, be it with politics, with everything. Like it's just, we just swing from one
extreme to the next extreme. Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious just to hear your thoughts about it, just with what I just said. Maybe you disagree with me, but
yeah. I mean, I do hear people talking about it more, and I do think it can be idolized as fix all, or everyone must go to therapy. I don't think that's the case. I do think it can be helpful. I do think there's definitely a place for it, but I also think that therapy shouldn't be put before other genuine relationships. Like you should prioritize having genuine relationships where you're connecting relationally with people, as well as you might need therapy or maybe you don't. But I don't think you should use therapy as like a scapegoat where it's like, oh, I'm talking to someone about it.
Yeah.
But this someone you're not in contact with every day, weekly.
That's good. That is very good. That's a good point. That's exactly where my mind was.
Yeah.
Because, like people are using it. People like glorify therapy to an extent that they don't want to go through the messiness of relationships with people, and they don't want people to know them for who they truly are, and so they use this person that they go to therapy to as, oh, I have my therapist and we talk through things and whatever, but you're not really, like you said, doing life with them, and that might not be necessarily the same thing, because I mean, there is definitely like being able to go to therapy and being able to talk to people that are expert in that specific area can be definitely helpful.
Yeah.
But I think like if those people are not. They're not giving you accountability a lot of the times. You're kind of going there and you're venting or throwing everything on the table and kind of sharing whatever is going on in your life, and they listen to you and then they try to help you understand or work through those things, and it makes sense. But if you are not consistently, like you said, doing life with somebody, and like you have someone who has a front row seat to the things that are going on in your life, it's different. It's just different.
Well, and I think here's, a real good question is like, you share a lot of the, garbage with your therapist, but are you sharing that stuff with your wife, with your husband, with your close friends? Are you sharing some of the hard things you've been through? Or are you only opening up to someone who you don't really see regularly? You're not in a relationship with. It's just someone you can throw everything at and then go back into the real world.
That's good.
And it's like, no, we're in the real world. Life gets messy, and we should all be, open and honest and just sharing with those who are close with us.
I wonder, since you just said, like from at the start, you said that, maybe you should go to therapy, maybe you shouldn't. There are some people that think that everyone should go to therapy at some point. And even some girls have made it as a prerequisite for a guy that they're going to date.
Really?
No, I'm serious. And I'm sure like people can leave comments that have, like, oh yeah, if I'm going to date you, you got to be in therapy, and hey, that's your standard and I get it. But what do you say to people like that? Like, do you think there is validity to that statement, or do you think it's a little bit too much?
I think it can be too much. I think I don't think necessarily everyone has to go through it. I think it can be a beneficial thing for anyone. And I mean, like we were talking about, there could be two extremes. And personally, like I would rather go through lean towards the extreme where people are open to therapy rather than the extreme of you hear people refusing to go to therapy, or like if a husband and a wife want to work through some issues and one of them wants to, hey, let's go to therapy, and the other one's like refusing. I think it's better to lean towards the idea of going to therapy or going to a counselor, or opening up and sharing the different things that are going on. I think it's better to lean more towards that than what the other extreme would be, which would just be bottling it all in.
So that's you're right on it. I think you make some really great points. I think another question that comes to mind is, if people don't go to therapy, right? Then are there maybe other ways that because I think therapy, I feel like there are other forms of therapy.
Yeah. Like
there are other ways that you can access the things therapy can give you without necessarily being in a therapy session.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are some of are there things that you think perhaps people can do, especially because therapy is expensive for some people. Some people can't afford going to therapy. Those even who would want to be in therapy.
Yeah.
So what are some of the perhaps ways that people can still dabble into the benefits of therapy?
Yeah. I have a couple thoughts that come to mind. One of the thoughts is, we go to a church that offers counseling. And so maybe you don't necessarily need, therapy, but maybe even counseling for a little bit of time to work through some different things and talk through some different things I think would be beneficial. But even more so than that, I think having a mentor in your life, I found for myself, like someone that you trust, someone you can go to, someone who's also been through life, but also has a biblical mindset where you can go to them and as you share with them that, one, they're just first going to listen and hear you, and then two, that they're going to point you in the right direction. And I think that's something important. But I find that things that you may find in therapy, you might be able to find in other places, other outlets as well, and some of that being like a good mentor, a good friend that you can talk with.
I think therein lies the power of confession, like being able to come clean about things you're struggling with and the things that you're dealing with in day-to-day life with the people that you're doing life with. And I also don't think like you should have one mentor. I am actually a firm believer that you can have multiple mentors in different areas of your life, because we were in different seasons in our lives, and in every season I think you should have someone that is very well suited and very well I guess just they're seaseasoned basically in that specific season to help you navigate that season. So if you're going through you're newly married, you should get someone in that you can trust, someone you can actually talk openly. For guys, talk to someone that has been a husband for 30 years. They'll tell you, whatever you're dealing with, it's not new. I had to deal with that with my wife, when we just got married, and this is kind of how we navigated it. So for me, the way I kind of define mentorship is basically you find someone that has been where you're trying to go. And not necessarily just been there, because some people live in seasons and they lived in those seasons forever. But like someone who has actually gone through that season successfully. So if you're going into college, perhaps you're a young man, you're going to college and you're trying to figure out, how do I handle the changes that come with that? How do I transition? How do I build relationships with people in that space? Then you can find someone that perhaps graduated. They just graduate. They can be a mentor too, because I also think sometimes when we think about mentorship, we think about old people that they're like 67 years old or like 70 and above.
They went through a lot of life.
They've been through a lot of life. But when you measure or when you gauge your mentors by seasons, it's much easier, because you can even find someone that is can be even your age, but they've been through that season. And they can actually provide some wisdom and insight into what you're dealing with.
Which makes me want to make a point too, is you might feel kind of young, like, I'm not supposed to be someone who is to be a mentor to someone. But, you might be in your young 20s, you might even be in your late teens, or however old you are, really. You've been through things that other people have not. You've walked through some things that other people have not.
Somehow,
so if you've gone through college, you might meet people who are just about to start going to college, and you can give them, mentor them in different ways. But it's just like everyone's gone through a little bit of life, at least, and there's always someone behind them that you can, mentor, you can bring up, you can give advice to. So don't disqualify yourself.
No, that's good. I was I was laughing because when you said a little bit of life, my mind went in a different direction. I was thinking of that song, like a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of how my mind works. So it's great. I totally agree. I think every season you can have somebody that has been through that season, has overcome that season, has done well in that season, and they can give you some wisdom. And so the bridge between mentorship and let's say this rising need for therapy, and I think that the bridge there is just finding people around you that you can open up to, that you can basically get into the muddiness of life with. It's like those people can be your therapy too. Like they can actually help you process things and help you understand. Yes, I understand that therapists sometimes have a professional viewpoint, and they kind of know how to categorize and understand your traumas and all of these terms that they use in therapy, which is great. And so for people that can afford that, you can do that. But I think for people that don't, you should not exempt yourself from healing because you can't afford therapy, or because, oh my gosh, I need to have this person called a therapist.
Yeah.
Because there are people in your network that God has put around you that can actually help you grow and heal from in places that you perhaps are still struggling, or even in places that you still need healing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's vital to, access the resources around you, the people around you.
Whatever God has placed around you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, what are some of the mentors? I'm assuming I know you have some mentors in your life, but are there times where you didn't have mentors? And if so, what kind of alerted you to the fact that you needed one? And what were you looking for when you were looking for a mentor? Those are 5 questions in one.
Right. No, there's many years, especially in my teenage years, where I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have someone that I could, felt comfortable talking with and sharing my life with. And it was definitely a struggle. Definitely. I've shared a little bit about it, but it's like I felt like I believed in God. Right? I wanted to live my life for God, but I felt like I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
And that's something that even having a mentor, someone to guide you through, like, hey, this is what, walking with Christ can look like. This is some of the things that can help you spiritually. This is, and just going through those different things. And then also, having someone where you can share, your struggles, the things you're going through. Definitely very, very beneficial. But there was years where I didn't have that. And once I had that, it was game changing right there. It was good. And so some of the things I look for is like, look at someone who you, look for someone where you want to be where they're at. It's like you see something that they have, you admire them, not necessarily like glorify them or lift them up, but it's like you see where they're at and you're like, man, I wish I could be there. And it can be in different things. Like someone you might be inspired by with how they are in business. Well, then you can go and have them as your mentor and glean from them and learn some good business strategies. Yeah. Some people you might admire spiritually, their relationship with God. Well, then you can go and you can glean from them and grow spiritually and learn how they have grown spiritually. But I think just looking for someone who you see where they're at and it's like you kind of want to be where they're at.
Yeah. And isn't it like also very important to kind of have a healthy framework of what success looks like?
Yeah.
Because I also feel like if people are looking for someone that, is successful in a specific area, it matters what you gauge as success. Yeah. Because I think for me, in my experience, I used to think, since I feel like God has called me to ministry, I need to have a mentor who has a mega church, someone who has, been, because at least for me, in my understanding, that is what success meant.
Yeah.
Like they have these, huge platforms and they have this, huge audience of people that are following them. And so I basically need that kind of person to kind of show me the ropes of how do they do it.
Yeah.
Whereas my desire was, it was a reasonable and valid desire, but my motivation and classification of their success was kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Because I think that is not a healthy. God doesn't even measure success like that.
Yeah.
God measures success by faithfulness.
Yeah.
So if you find my church pastor in Florida, who has been pastoring a church for a little over 10 years, and his church is around like 250 people, and he's been faithful at that, doing it every single day, and he visits people in the hospitals, he does all these things, and I got to be under him and serve under him, and I got to see what goes into it. I got to see how emotionally tasking it was on him, and how he navigated those challenging conversations with people, how he led people. And so that was success. But, from our cultural perspective, sometimes we might think, oh, no, that's, just 250 people. I want someone who has 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Then that makes sense, because then they are actually successful. But that's not how God looks at success.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I even think about, Jesus, and he preached to big crowds, but he really focused in on 12 disciples.
He mentored just 12 people, yeah.
And what the 12 disciples did after him, in a lot of ways, was even greater. They reached even further bounds. And I think oftentimes we look at the big numbers, and that's not what's important. It's like, who around you are you putting, a lot of weight, a lot of time, a lot of influence into, that when you're gone, they can keep moving on with it. And so sometimes I think it's not always about the numbers. It's not always about the crowd. And although that can be a good thing.
Yeah.
But to your point.
Yeah, like even from a business standpoint, like, I know we're using a lot of like Christian examples, but like even when you think about it from, if you're looking for a professional mentor, like, there are people that have been running a small business for like 30 years, and their business has been around through the thick and thin of the changing economy and all the different things that are going on. And it is so crazy to think that that is not success, because a lot of small businesses die every single year.
Yeah.
But like when you think about it, like if you are trying to get into entrepreneurship as a young man or a young woman, and you're trying to find someone who's done it, like you shouldn't be looking at someone who's doing a Fortune 100 company. You know, you could actually find someone who's doing it at a smaller scale, because the Bible says, do not undermine small beginnings, because the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. So at the end of the day, all that matters is find somebody who's a level above you. It doesn't matter whether, they have this huge, humongous, kind of out of the ordinary kind of definition of success.
Yeah.
But as long as they are where you think you want to go, you can still invest in them, because it takes character, it takes integrity, it takes hard work, it takes discipline for them to even be able to get into those spaces that you are trying to get into.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's that's vital. That's very important. And I think, with business and spiritually and anything, it's just like always look for someone that you see where they're at, and it's like you want to be where they're at. And, and always look for, because you're talking about, it's not always about the big, it's not always about who's doing necessarily the most. It's like, look at the character behind the person, right? Yeah, their business might be big. But are they cheating people? Are they manipulating in ways? Are they fudging the numbers? That's good. Or are they being honest about it? And so who you are mentored by is very important. And I think it's even the Bible talks about keeping an even scale, and it's like you want someone who's going to be fair, who's going to be honest, even when it's going to cost them. Yeah, that's good. That's good, because then you kind of see them model it in the real life, in their day-to-day, in the way they're doing what they're doing, and that, oh yeah, I can also be successful in this if I do it the way that they're doing, because even though they're doing the right thing, they're still successful. So it's not like you have to screw someone over, or you have to like cheat someone in order to be able to get to where you need to get. But I think personally, you don't need to have one mentor. I think you need to have you can have a spiritual mentor. If you need to find some more spiritual growth in your life, then you need a spiritual mentor. I think you can, for those that want to be in business, find if you find someone that is all those things in one, then great. That's great. But that's not how it normally works. If you find someone who's a relational mentor, like I have mentors that in my professional circle now that I am, a professional, and I'm working full time and all these things. So I have people that I have kind of seen in this space that, kind of do things the way that I think they're onto something. So I'm like, I'm curious. I want to learn what are they doing right. And then, you get into like relational spaces, figuring out how to keep relationships, how to understand people. And you spiritually, find spiritual mentors, and, even you can find sports mentors too. Yeah.
If you're doing much.
Well,
into
yeah.
sports.
Well, yeah. I mean, like me, I love hockey. If I want
Yeah.
to get better at hockey, I'm gonna look at someone who's had more years, who's had more experience, who knows things that I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, I just thought about when you said that. I just thought about this idea because I heard someone use it before. It's like mentorship by proxy, like people that maybe you read a lot of their books, like the things that they do. Like you've never met them, but like you follow their lives so closely to learn from them and to glean a lot of understanding from what they do, and you can have those people too. Like it's beautiful that we have internet and we have all these resources now that you don't really need to know. A lot of people put all their lives online. And some people have written tons of books. Like I was watching this video, it was going viral a lot actually. I don't know if you saw it, but like there was this thing going around. They were asking Jay-Z. They were asking people if you need to take $500,000 or have a dinner with Jay-Z, like what would you choose? And of course people, some people were like, yeah, I'm taking the $5,000, and other people were like, yeah, I'm going to take the dinner, with Jay-Z because, man, he's a billionaire and he's been successful in his business and what he does. And, some people, that's their model, so like, yeah, I'm going to go with, so like, but he was going around a lot. And it's so interesting because they asked Jay-Z the question because it was going around very viral a lot of times. And eventually they sat down in an interview and asked Jay-Z, have you seen the viral meme that's going around asking whether someone would take $500,000 or have dinner with you? And a lot of people were choosing to have dinner with you because they think they would get so much knowledge just hearing you speak across dinner, whatever. And Jay-Z is so interesting because he was like, nah, just take the 500,000. He was like, don't ask for dinner. He was like, first of all, everything that I'm gonna tell you, I've already written it in all my songs. So just go take the $500,000 and buy all my albums because that's all my life is on those songs. You know what I mean? And so there are people like that they have written so many books that all of their wisdom and knowledge is all up online. So,
I completely agree with that. I know a lot of people who, if they're trying to fix their car, they'll go to YouTube, right? Because someone's done it before, and you get the video, and they'll explain everything, and even that, to a level, I mean, it is mentorship. Not a very relational one, but it's like something you can learn and glean from for sure. But anyways, we're coming up on time, but it's been great. Thanks for listening in.
Thank you guys for joining us.
And, continue to like, share, subscribe, and add to the conversation. So if there's something that we maybe missed, let us know. If there's something that intrigued you, let us know.
Absolutely. Eric and Jed.
Yeah, we're out.